Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week we're going to talk about a show that recently returned to Netflix because of an all-new series, movie, and just an overall repackaging, because it was kind of gone for like 10 years. I hadn't rewatched it in about 5, but this thing, it was one of the shows that really hit me, really had me enjoying it, and this show was Tiger and Bunny. And this was developed by Sunrise Entertainment. And the thing for me with Tiger and Bunny is it comes off the heels of the big boom in superheroes and in media. So around 2008, Iron Man came out, and of course superheroes were big, I'd say around 1997, 1998, 2000, when X-Men came out, for sure. But it wasn't really until Marvel made the DC, or the MCU, the DC had their Batman movies and some of the Superman movies and whatnot, but they weren't just the juggernaut that they are now until then. But one of the coolest things is when you can deconstruct a genre in a different way. And this was also something I saw hinted at with stuff like Incredibles. You know, what are the mundane lives of superheroes like? You only get to do so much of that because you have to focus on a movie. But The Incredibles was great because it's two superheroes that have a family, right? So, same idea applies. You have, well, why not turn something into a reality show or a procedural crime drama or something like that? Some idea like that. And I saw that, like, with The Tick, of all things. Because when The Tick came out, Cops was the big fucking deal as far as reality shows go. It was just cops doing their daily lives and arresting people. And you still see that here and there, like, so many shows like that. But when Cops was the biggest thing, America's Most Wanted was the thing, and then The Tick kind of did a parody of it. It was known as Heroes, and you would just have the Tick and Arthur and Deflator Mouse and whatever standing in front of a camera or be at a diner or catch these random criminals and whatnot. It was played for laughs again. But the idea of a superhero based reality show was something that I'd not really seen much of. And then it turns out that there's an anime version of it known as Tiger and Bunny. And inside of all that, what Tiger and Bunny does do is it matches the reality show concept without it being absurd. They focus still solely on the characters. They don't focus on the, oh my god, it's a TV show. It's an aesthetic choice. Because you still have your superheroes and your crime dramas and your whatnots and your things playing in the foreground. The backdrop of it being superheroes are on TV and they are protecting us, it is real. It is not some fake show, that they drummed up for ratings. It is these people known as Next who are either doing it for the good of the city of Sternbild, or they're using it just to fuck around with people. You got your villains doing stuff. And, of course, the superheroes on the show, there's about 5 or 6 of them. And the coolest thing about it, not shown so much on Netflix, but in its initial release, was the fact that each superhero was sponsored. So not only did you have to contend with the real meat of the show, which is like 2 or 3 subplots, you would have, well, you're sponsored and you have to keep up your sponsors happy, that sort of thing. You had to do all this other cool stuff, like plaster your logo on your shoulders and your helmets and all this crap. So you have to keep them happy. And then you have to do all the stuff and keep just surviving. So there's so many competing interests in the show, and there's only so much that they can do, even in a 26 episode series. And it's gotten bigger, of course. But the cast is huge, and they give you the usual swath of characters, but they're all really, really good. And I think one of the biggest things, and I'll talk about it when I do the recap, is the voice cast in this show. I talked before about how .hack GU had the best voice cast of anybody in terms of a video game, like even more than, they say, Persona 4. This is kind of the anime equivalent of that. Like, anybody who was anybody back in the late 2000s was in this. I think the only, like, big name voice actor I didn't hear was, like, freaking Crispin Freeman or Troy Baker, and I was like, I heard of almost everybody else, you know, everybody good. And you'll hear it when I go over some of the characters. But again, it is about the characters and their superpowers and their alternate personas, because they give you, you know, a basic overview of a couple of different things that they do. And it really revolves around Tiger and Bunny. So Wild Tiger, otherwise known as Kotetsu Kaburagi, is voiced by Wally Wingard. His whole superpower is that he can become a super powered individual, but only for 100 seconds or 500 seconds or however long. I believe it's 500 seconds. This is something like that. It's known as the 100 power. So I'm assuming 100 seconds, give or take. But he has two issues going on with him. Well, three. One, he's reckless and clumsy and dumb. He's technically the old guy, but 40 isn't that old, but he also has the issue later on in season 2 where he's losing his powers, so that his powers are getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, and it's affecting kind of his mentality, because he's like an athlete who's trying to stick to the glory for either the money or the fame, or just because that's what he was. He was a superhero for 15 or 20 years, and even though time is passing him by and it's telling him to stop, he doesn't want to. Partly because he has a child that he has to raise, but he doesn't tell his kid that he's a superhero and he's just trying to do what's best for her. The problem is that she's off in some podunk village somewhere away from Sternville while he's doing all the work. So it's kind of cool that later on she starts to suspect that something's up, and while his powers are going down and all this other bullshit's going down, he's trying to stay strong and stay stern and whatnot, but you can tell he's just kind of an idiot, kind of a goofball. And it's nice that you have a character like that, because the other main character is the usual stern protagonist dork, you know. But well, I mean, not dork, but you know what I'm saying. You have your comedic foil, who's usually the side character, but that's the main character. The secondary main character is the stern, simple, like, I'm the protagonist dude, I'm the hero dude, you know, I'm just doing this for the normal reasons. And that's Barnaby Brooks Jr., voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. He has the same power, and they get teamed up, much to their chagrin, but they slowly get used to it and work around it. And his whole motivation is he was trying to look for somebody who killed his family 20 years ago. Apparently they were researchers, and they did some research on both Next and androids. So androids play a part in this fictional superhero city, which makes it even harder to deal with. Outside of all the other people with superpowers and shit, you got that to contend with. So you do have this setting that is definitely more modernized, but still futuristic in a sense. The idea of being Next isn't something that he doesn't mind, because he was groomed into it by someone known as Albert Maverick, voiced by Jameson Price, who took over for his parents, and it's basically grooming him to be the number one hero. And he doesn't come across, like, Barnaby doesn't come across as a glory hound. It happens here and there. You start seeing them get more famous as, like, season 2. I don't know how you would describe it. Like, for me, season 2 was the second half, the 14 through 26. I think season 2 might technically be the new series, but bear with it. That's what I mean, is the second set of 13 episodes, because the first 13 focus on a pair of characters known as Jake Martinez and Cream. They're the ones doing a lot of crazy shit. He was an ex-convict who apparently knows something about Barnaby's issues, or is the one who caused it. Ends up being a false flag, but Jake Martinez himself is just Oh, it's so fucking good. Voiced by Steve Bloom, so of course you know he owns the screen. Because whenever Steve Bloom gets to be a villain, you just know, like, shit hit the fan. But, so that's the first season. Second season is kind of piecing things back together, and that's where a lot of the other, like, oh my god, they're becoming famous, and oh my god, cool stuff. The other main hero is Karina Lyle, known as Blue Rose. She even gets her own catchphrase, too. And they say it every episode. One of the cool things about Blue Rose is her power is basically Iceman. Ice powers. Nothing super crazy, just ice power. You got an ice-powered person, you got a fire-powered person, you got a wind, you got lightning, and then you've got a couple guys who just are strong, or in another person's case, you have a shapeshifter. But it kind of rounds out the whole thing. She's kind of got her own subplot going where she's trying to be a musician and a singer as an idol, but nobody can know that it's her. So it's kind of funny that people don't put two and two together when she's the one singing, and then she's singing on air, and she's like an idol and all this other crap. It's also sort of weird because she's like a late teenager, and she starts falling for Wild Tiger, who's late 30s, early 40s kind of thing, and has a kid. It is kind of strange to me that they would, like, I don't know. Maybe she's just looking for companionship. I don't know. Maybe she does like him. I don't fucking know. I don't think they go as far as, like, it's nothing explicit. Because thank fucking Christ, that'd be, again, do you, but I think, 5 to 10 years is an age gap thing. If it's anything more than that, I think it's a bit strange. So 20? Good friends, I can understand, but not really. But again, you have different characters. Fire Emblem shoots fire. You have Dragon Kid, a mix of Bruce Lee and quarterstaff, martial arts, cool stuff, and lightning powers like Storm would. Origami Cyclone, he can learn to shapeshift, and it's used a couple of times to cool effect. Otherwise, he doesn't really do much. He kind of stays in the background. Not sure why he's there, but they give him an episode early on to at least justify, hey, he is a shapeshifter and he's doing a thing. And then Rock Bison is just Kotetsu's friend, and he's big burly guy. Not pissed off burly guy like Hulk, but just big strong guy. Nothing fancy, nothing cool, but it's kind of the main three heroes, and then the 4 or 5 other guys that are just palling around. And the cool thing is that there is a camaraderie and a nice friendly rivalry, because they're all in they're different sponsorships. And that's the cool thing, is the intros, they don't show them in the Netflix release, but in all of the OPs and endings, they have like logos of actual companies blazoned on their stuff. I think Blue Rose is actually sponsored by Pepsi or some other Coke company, that sort of thing. I don't know if it's like Amazon or whatever. It's these just gigantic companies that splash logos everywhere. It's pretty fucking cool. It's almost like logos on those race cars or logos on someone's jersey, that sort of thing in soccer. So again, they're playing to a lot of cool competing interests in this show about superheroes. So you've got superheroes, you got reality TV, you got all this cool stuff going on. And as stated, HeroTV is kind of all-encompassing. Fight the heroes, earn points, get yourself on trading cards and magazines and TV shows and reality TV and all this cool shit. So you have all these cool ideas at play in this big old city that's like New York. So Wild Tiger and Bunny have to team up and do all this stuff. You've got Wild Tiger trying to deal with his daughter in a certain way. He's not really the best dad. Unfortunately, he's a good-hearted person, but he sucks at being a dad. I swear. Just when you think he starts like learning a lesson, he doesn't, and it's almost reckless and irresponsible. I understand it. A guy trying to hold on to a certain occupation that he's had for 20 to 30 years, I get it. Especially something that's going to be singular to him. Because aside from Bunny, it's like he's the one with this 100 power, so I get it. It's like athletes that want to hang on one more season or something like that. or specifically wrestlers who wrestle into their 50s and 60s, and then you just, you know, some people don't know when to quit until it's way too late. So I understand that vibe. And then kind of the main plot, if you would call it that, is the one about Bunny and his, or Barnaby and his family's murders. And that one kind of takes center stage in the second season. But it's always going to be a through point. And I think that's the main plot. Kotetsu still takes kind of the mantle as the main character, though, which is cool because, again, he's played for laughs. And it's nice to have a main character who is the goofball, but well-meaning goofball, as opposed to just, I'm protagonist, dude, I do everything. You know, you've seen that a lot more lately, and I think it's good to break out of the mold. And the best part is neither of the two are the anime teenager who has the superpowers because of whatever. You know, they're different people. This isn't based in Japan, really. Kaburagi's Japanese, but other than that, he's an old guy. Barnaby's in his 20s. He's well-to-do. He's well-off. So none of these characters feel like the typical protagonist, you know. And it's nice that it's a different kind of vibe to it. And, of course, both seasons have their own different antagonists to go against them. And you have small, shorter episodes and subplots here and there, like saving the mayor's kid or finding some dudes at a school and training them and then realizing one of them broke out and whatever. So they do enough with the superhero premise that it's cool. And I haven't seen I haven't seen the newest stuff that they brought back. I'm just going off the original show from 10 years ago, but it's really fascinating how much stuff they're able to pile into a show with so much depth to it without feeling overburdened by it. Because you watch those movies like Spider-Man 3 and you're just like, there's too much fucking shit going on. This seems to have just enough because it is a 26 episode show, and then they've got a new 13 episode Cour, and it's like they do enough with the premise that it doesn't feel like it's stretched too much because you've seen that hour is packed too tightly. It's just right. Another cool thing is it is flashy. It does look good. Everybody feels like they should. Like every superpower, every antagonist, every protagonist has their own superpower or vibe to it. It feels like a crime drama, but it's still comedic. All the sponsorships blazoned everywhere. All of the cool visuals, all the ideas of the producer lady, who's also a cool character, just sitting there in her production truck saying, we got to get this on the air, we got to get great ratings, just doing it for self-serving reasons. You know that she's a good person, but she's got that self-serving, conniving attitude because it's going to benefit her, as a competing, all these cool things, the flashiness, the amount of superhero stuff that isn't so super creative that it's hard to follow, but it's not so stock that you can't, okay, it's just this power, this power, this power. It's all stuff you've probably seen before, but it's still done in a great way. And I can't really come up with any negatives. I'm not saying it's my favorite show. I'm saying that there's so much stuff that goes into it that works. The HeroTV premise is great. The voice cast, you have Wally Wingert, you have Laura Bailey, Yuri Lowenthal, Travis Willingham. Just name somebody that I've probably named from games and anime over the last 20 years. They were probably in it. And then, even though they made the new one, they had to get new characters. They replaced Dragon Kid with Cassandra Lee Morris, who I've said is Morgana from Persona 5. It's like, come on, it's so good. And I'm just sitting there going, this is just too good. So I rarely put anything close to Bebop or something. And I'm not saying it's a top 10 or top 20, but it certainly feels like it. It reminded me that Tiger and Bunny was just a capsule in time. And I think because the superhero boom is still such a thing, the fact that they have another season on Netflix and a new movie out is great because the superhero boom hasn't ended. There's still so much you can do with it. And as long as Marvel and DC keep going and have a stranglehold on movies, you're sitting there going, well, they have so much stuff they can data mine from. And again, this was made in Japan, so they're obviously going to have a different opinion on things than we would. But it doesn't feel Japanese. Sometimes the shows are centered in high school or centered on other worlds or all the cliches. This doesn't feel cliche at all. Or if it does, it feels like a different type of cliche. It feels like a deconstruction of the American reality TV system with the American superheroes as a backdrop. So it's its own unique spin on the superhero genre, and I was really enthusiastic about it. And I hope you guys check it out. It's on Netflix. The new stuff is on Netflix, so you're going to have, 30, 40 episodes and a movie and maybe even more stuff to watch. So you're going to be in for a good time. But that shall do it for me. And next week is going to be Kirby in the Forgotten Land. It will be a mouthful with a car or a vending machine or a pipe or a water balloon or a semi-truck, because it's Kirby and Kirby's great. A week after that will be Black Lagoon. Wholly different vibe from Tiger and Bunny, I can safely say that much. My second favorite anime of all time, behind Bebop. Black Lagoon is one of those ones I can rewatch and just not get bored. And then after that, we're finally going to do Final Fantasy IV. I've been putting it off, but I've been looking at the Final Fantasy IV After Years recently, so I'm not going to do them both. I'm going to save After Years for its own separate video, but Final Fantasy IV is in my head, so I'm going to definitely record it in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because it's Final Fantasy IV. It's one of the best ones, so of course I'm going to be happy about it. And then after Final Fantasy IV, I'm going to do my 1-year podcast anniversary, and I'm excited. I'm excited because I didn't know how this would go, how I would feel, but I really do enjoy doing these podcasts, and I really hope that people enjoy them and have seen some sort of improvement, because you always want to try and improve our podcasts or our videos or whatever, and I feel I have definitely improved. These have been getting a lot shorter, barring the bigger RPGs like Persona or not Legend of Mana, but Ys 8, stuff like that. The bigger ones that took a longer time. But these recent episodes have been shorter. They've been more concise. They've been just packed with stuff. So again, I'm trying to keep timing in mind. YouTube is a time-related space. So hopefully that sort of improvement is tangible and people do appreciate that. And I hope it's more concise without feeling too baked in. I think that's one of the bigger things. But I'll go over all that stuff, pet peeves, what I look for in games and anime, all that shit in its own episode. But that'll do it for me for this week, at least. So this is Citizen Strife, signing off.